We talk about cost of marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
With all the repeat and referral, we've been able to maintain close to a 10% cost of marketing all in, which we think is a really healthy number. When we go and do TV, it's harder to track, but what our CRM tells us is that our cost of marketing is 80% to 100%. So spend $1, get $1. That's called, going out of business quickly if you relied on that.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wealthy Contractor podcast. This is Brian Kaskavalcian, and with me today, back for the fourth time, we just had to do some digging to figure it out, is my friend Justin Bartley from Next Door and Window out of the Chicagoland area. Justin, welcome back.
Brian, thank you. Awesome to be here. Honored to be here, and I'm really hoping that I can top it off this time and just bring lots of value. So
yes, you definitely have to do better than you did last time.
It's my goal.
Just for all of you, Justin he's one of the best operators. I say this to people all the time. One of the best operators I know in this business, and if we could do an episode a week, and we would learn a ton from this man because he's kind of been through it all. So let's give everybody kind of a quick update on your business. Just give us the quick backstory, because they can always go back and hear your whole story, and then kind of let us know about where you are this year and kind of where you're going next year. You don't have to if you don't want to do revenue numbers, you don't have to. You could do salespeople or number of jobs, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, sure. Well, we're just wrapping up our 22nd year. So it's amazing. So started the business with my father. He's still in the business today. He's out selling. So I've been really fortunate to have a great partner, and we built an amazing team. So it's been 22 years, but the business is we're still focused on providing an awesome window and door replacement experience for homeowners. So really, we've stayed true to that mission all along, and it's been a great journey. Super fortunate to be in this industry. Love it, and I've learned a lot the hard way in many cases, but here we are. And this, if we fast forward to 2024, you asked how the year's going, and I think that the overall sentiment in the industry is that it's been extremely difficult to get appointments. Marketing, after really doing all the roles in the company, that's where I spend a lot of my time. I love marketing. And that has been the big challenge this year, is just to get the phone to ring. You build a sales team, and now, how do you fill the pipeline with leads? So I think that's been across the board probably the biggest challenge we've seen this year.
But the business has grown this year. Even with that challenge, you have grown year over year.
We have grown. The appointments are only up just a few percent this year. We had a few other factors going on that contributed to growth, but we have seen our average ticket go up, and our closing numbers, our closing ratios have actually increased this year. So we've put a lot of effort on, our sales process and training to make the best out of what we have right now. But yeah, so we've seen we're at about 15, 17% growth this year. So we're really feeling excited and fortunate about that. And, what we think has been a pretty tough, environment overall.
It went back to how it was pre-COVID. And I would say even before 2016, 17, because that's when we really started to see stuff going up, and then COVID just blew it up. But what's interesting is, you and a lot of my friends in the industry and your friends in the industry, we've been around. We've seen ups and downs in the market before. And it's shocking to me how many new people there are in the business that think that COVID was normal, that what was going on during COVID is normal. Because leads, I mean, that's all we used to talk about before COVID was leads, leads, leads. And for 2 years, 2.5 years, we didn't talk about leads. We talked about how the hell are we going to get to all of the leads? How are we going to get all the work installed? How are we going to get product? We talked about everything except leads. Well, now the conversation has come full circle and we're right back to now. It's all about leads. It's all about leads.
And yes, and historically, that is generally one of the big challenges in this industry is getting leads. Yeah. So we did have a really unusual time there, 2021, 22. And that's clearly over, but some things never change. And one thing we know for sure is that taking care of the customer with an awesome experience and generating repeat and referral business, that's always the constant, and that is the success formula. And I know with G4 marketing, that's a big focus that you've had there. And that's when times get tough, we always tend to go back to our database and find that our customers, if we treat them well, they keep coming back. And that's been, I think, a big story for us in 2024 is, how can we double down, on our current database, existing customers, and generate more revenue that way.
Yeah. And you've got a very high percent. I mean, for the size that you are, I think that I want to say probably when we did either the last episode, 133, or the one before that, 74, you were half the size that you are now. And that wasn't all that much long ago. That was, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe. You were half the size you are now. And your ability to maintain that high level of repeat and referral business is really extraordinary.
Well, thank you. And that's really the focus. And again, it really just starts with focus on the customer that you have in front of you right now. Mm-hmm. Because it's cost you, fractions to maintain that customer, get a repeat customer, than it does to go out and get a new one. And the talk is always about marketing and how do I find more leads? How can I get more leads? How can I get, more phone calls? And that there's a place and that, that's necessary to grow. But the foundation is really with your current customer, your current database. And that's really where the most profitable customer comes from. And as we've grown, we have been able to maintain somewhere in that 45 to 50% of our business still comes from repeat and referral business. But really focusing on that, and there are strategies to use to keep tapping into those customers as long as they're happy. That's really I think the key is really at any stage of the business, whether it's new, whether you're 22 years in or longer, maintaining that customer and the trust of that customer is really the key to success.
Yeah. It's funny now that it's been 15 years since we started G4 marketing. And now that we're still involved with G4 marketing, but we don't run it on a day-to-day basis. In fact, we only own a small percentage of it now, and we're on the board. And it's interesting now when I think back to how hard it was in 2009 to convince people that, hey, you got to take care of your customer. You got to build a relationship. You were way ahead of the curve on this. I think by the time we met, you had already been doing all this stuff for years. You are one of, many people that I know that just do this extraordinarily well and are focused on it as a business person and realize that, hey, I could really build a great business by taking really good care of my customer. And it's so hard for a lot of people to get that in their head. It's like there's so many people that are just the one and dones, because that's how it used to be. This industry, now they talk about repeat and referral a lot more. We talk about, because of the whole review thing, Google review thing, it's almost like, well, if we're going to go after and get all of these reviews, now we have to take better care of our customer. Back before all of the review thing, I used to, even before G4, I used to tell people that, if you do a bad job for a customer, they're going to go tell everybody they know. So it's like 24 people potentially you are not going to get business from. But today, it's like, from the advent of Google review, now you got one pissed off customer. They're talking to the world. They're talking to everybody. And if you're not paying attention to that, it's bad. It's bad for business, bad for profitability. It's bad for growth.
Hey, can I just share some numbers with you?
Of course.
I just think they're astounding. And all of this, when you talk marketing, Brian, you're always, it's all rooted in numbers. This isn't my intuition or I think. Right. This is like, it's all baked in the numbers. And this, just some few numbers off the top of my head. So for us to go generate, a new appointment costs us today, it's in the mid 550s, almost $570 to get an issued appointment today.
Yeah, I think that's about the average now.
And we talk about cost of marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've with all the repeat and referral, we've been able to maintain close to a 10% cost of marketing all in. Yeah. When you talk about staff, your marketing director's salary, everything all in, which we think is a really healthy number. All right. Well, when we go and do TV, which is, it's harder to track, but what our CRM tells us is that our cost of marketing is 80% to 100%. So spend $1, get $1. That's called, going out of business quickly if you relied on that. When we do a direct mail piece, we do a lot of shared mail as well. So let's, like a Clipper magazine or Valpak, works pretty well for us. The marketing cost is still about 25%.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if we spend $1, we get $4 in sales. That's not terrible. Our repeat customers, the cost of marketing on that is 0.6%.
Wow.
For us to get a repeat customer back in the door. So you can see how compelling it is to maintain a great customer experience so your customers keep calling back and they tell their friends as well. And so that's been a real staple in our success, is taking care of the customer. But then there's another really important piece, and that is how do you stay in front of the customer? And I know at G4, Brian, that's where you guys have had a lot of success there.
Yeah.
And because it depends on your particular industry that you're in, maybe, but we do windows and doors. So typically people might do it in phases, or that, they don't do everything at once. Or if you have multiple product lines, these strategies will work. But one of the most successful things that we do, just again, focusing on that customer that you have in front of you, it's get in their mailbox 5-6 times a year. And that's been a strategy we've used going back, over 15 years. And it works better as well as it ever has before, right now, even in 2024. Staying in front of your customer, obviously email, texting, there's a lot of things you can do. But getting in their mailbox, it still works really well.
Yeah.
And it's a great strategy if you want to, build up your repeat and referral business to the 40 or 50%, mark, which is, probably a really healthy place to be. It's a strategy that's worked really well for us.
Yeah. And there's really nothing better that you can do than like a company newsletter, That's like I've always called that the workhorse of the G4 program, is that newsletter that goes out. It's a friendly package. People will pick it up. People will read it, and it keeps you in front of people. It keeps you in front of people. And, God, the worst thing we can do is let a customer forget about us. And I think that's what most people do, is they let that customer forget about them. The other interesting thing there, just looking at facts and figures. So by the way, for all of you listening, there's a very powerful lesson there. He'll tell you, he can rattle off these numbers. That 0.6% allows you to buy a whole lot of TV. And even though the direct marketing cost might be 100% of the job, what it does is it provides, probably you'll see this, is a lift in everything else that you do. So direct attribution may be 100%. The real attribution maybe is 40% because of the lift it causes everything else. But then now you can afford to do it because you blend them together, and now 0.6 and 30 I mean, it's just a formula to win.
Well, if you want to grow, depending on the level you're at, I think there's different strategies for what might be appropriate. I think we all agree that more direct response marketing, such as, email marketing, pay-per-click, direct mail, is a lower investment, especially if you're starting out or your company's smaller. But then at some point, brand building is an important part of the mix when with TV and radio. Yeah. And those are things that you do want to add in there. But maintaining that, very high level of repeat customers, as you said, that's what allows you to bring the overall marketing cost down substantially if you can keep building.
Hey, let me ask you this. So you've been in that marketing seat a long time. I've had a lot of discussions over the years about marketing and direct response marketing. That was a seat you had a hard time giving up also for a very long time. When people are starting out, so to me, if in this business, you get to, it used to be about $1 million. Now it's a little bit higher, but $1.3 million, $1.4 million, where the owner is the one that's going out and selling. And the thing that keeps them stuck at that level is you basically have 2 full-time jobs. You can't run leads full-time and run your business full-time. And so the first thing you have to do is get rid of the thing that's basically another full-time job. And that scares the hell out of people. It requires now, I got to go get a selling system. I got to now teach my system to other people. I've got to do coaching. I've got to do training. I've got to, do recruiting and all of this. And then once you've done that, and now you've got a couple salespeople, now you have to become, as the owner, now you have to become marketer. You have to make sure that your 2 salespeople each have 2 leads to run a day. So when you kind of take yourself back to when you were having to make sure you had appointments for your new salespeople, how does somebody start off being focused on being marketing focused? Or am I making sense with that question? It's like, how do I shift from, okay, I've been selling, that's what I know, to now I got to be a lead generator?
You mentioned a lot of different hats that the owner is going to wear, especially if you're starting the business out from scratch, or you're starting it alone, or maybe you have one partner. And there are a lot of things to do in the business. So the key, the earlier you can find out, what am I really good at? What do I really enjoy? The sooner you can find that out, the better it is, because then the goal is, how do I immerse myself in that? And what I'm not good at, how do I prioritize? What are the top 3 people that I need right now? And work on, okay, let's fill that seat, that most important seat. For me, I love marketing. So I just naturally, so that was eventually my goal of how can I spend more time doing that? Because I really enjoy that and love marketing, but not everybody does.
Right.
Some people really love the sales end or the production side, So I guess I would say, if that's you and you do love the marketing aspect, you have to really look at how can I offload some of the other roles that I'm currently doing, going back to, like, if I could magically find 3 people to come help me in my business, like right now, what are the top 3 people or roles I would fill right now that I don't want to do? And then you work on that first one, let's fill that first. That's going to free up time. So that's how you can work to put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
But for those of us who don't, maybe marketing isn't something that we're real fond of, or we don't really necessarily want to do that, but that's got to be one of those 3 priorities. Like, if that's not you, that's got to be a priority to find that person, or maybe it's an agency that you can use for a time. But we know in this business, that has to be a core competency, of the business itself.
That's right.
You can only outsource that for so long.
Yeah.
But you need to become a master at marketing in this business. Your company does. So if it's not you, you should be working on finding that right person that can come in and start making marketing a big priority, because that's where the growth comes from.
Yeah. What were some of the things that you did or are continuing to do to get better at marketing?
You probably ultimately need someone in your company outside of yourself. Even like myself, okay, I ran marketing for quite some time, but I also realized as a business owner, you have a lot of other important roles you have to fill. You're still probably the president, maybe the CEO of the company. So I would argue that, and it actually took my leadership team to tell me, and I remember the conversation from my controller at the time, who's like, listen, Justin, we need a real marketing like, we know you think you're like the marketing like guru, but we need like a real marketing person who can spend 100% of their time on marketing. And I realized that. And
you didn't like that conversation.
I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, I've been doing this. Like, right. I think I'm great at this. But
right.
So I think, well, that's the first thing. Like, ultimately, we need someone focused on that role 100% of their time.
Can I interrupt you there? So the challenge is that, and I know for those of you that are listening, I know we're talking about some, kind of some elementary stuff, but bear with us because, Justin runs a big company. So we're going to talk a little bit more we're going to go a little bit deeper on the marketing stuff. But I do for those that are kind of stuck with, hey, I got to become a marketer kind of thing. I want to make sure that we kind of cover this a little bit for them, because one of the things that I see a lot in business, and it's, I'm really only involved in this industry, is I see a lot of people looking for what I call a savior. They're looking to get that one sales manager that's going to go out and install a selling system. They're going to go hire people. They're going to train them and they're going to run them and they're going to do all of this. Marketing person, they're going to go hire a market. And that person's going to bring them all the leads that they need. Well, you and I both know that it ain't that easy. And if there's a really good sales manager out there or a really good marketing manager out there, the odds of a $2 million company hiring them, not very good. You've got to have a pretty good foundation in place with metrics, with accountability before you can now pass that along. I mean, you were a pretty big company. You were over 20 million, right? When they kicked you out? Kind of, or
probably right around.
Yeah, suggested.
Right around that level, yes.
Yeah. So you had to do everything to get it to that point. And so if we think about it back then, like early on, can you remember some of the stuff that you did that, what were the things that you did that helped you develop that skill? Because a lot of the people listening may not like marketing. They might not have been introduced to it like you and I were introduced to it. But if you can't make leads, you're toast in this business. You might as well go work for somebody else.
Absolutely. And I would suggest getting involved with, the Wealthy Contractor, G4 Marketing, webinars. There are a lot of free resources out there as well to learn. The biggest learning you can do is called, I think it is trial and error, because all of our businesses, although they're similar, markets are different, products are different, everything's different. Setting up your CRM, teaching your contact center, whoever that is, about proper attribution, using tracking numbers, getting the right data into your system probably would be the number one thing. Mm-hmm. Because without that, you have no idea what's really happening. So getting that really dialed in, and every single day, every month, looking at the numbers, putting your costs into the CRM so you can really see your appointment costs and, your cost of marketing. So that's probably where I learned the most, is just studying that, day after day. Really, that didn't work. This work. Look at the cost of marketing. It's only 15%. Like, let's dump more money into that. This cost of marketing is 40%. Like, let's turn that down. And all those dials are right there in front of you, but you have to. So that's kind of the 101, is get the data right, because then the marketing decisions are not that hard if your numbers are all there in front of you. It makes it a lot easier to decide where to invest the money.
And it's funny, because that was the exact answer I was looking for. The real test of this whole thing is trial and error. But in order to do that properly, you need to be able to measure, and you need those KPIs, and you need those metrics in order to know what's working and what's not, what's profitable, what's not. So now, how many salespeople do you have now?
We have 25.
Oh, shit. So 25, that's a lot. So 25. So 2 a day, right? So you guys have to set 50 appointments a day.
I mean, I wish we could say we were today, December 7th or 6th. But yeah, during the busy season, those are the numbers that we need.
Right. Yeah. Well, but that's how you gauge it, and its efficiency and effectiveness there. You measure that as well. And so what are some of the things in 2024? I mean, we're recording this now. We're basically at the end. It's December 6th. By the way, Justin, before we go to that, my team will be upset with me if I don't do a quick plug for Accelerate Live, which is happening it's February 10th to the 13th. So it's Monday through Thursday, but the main event is Tuesday and Wednesday, the 11th and the 12th. We're going to be at Amelia Island. Monday, we're doing a charity golf outing at the resort. It's going to be cool. We're trying to raise money for Tunnel to Towers. This year's event, we raised $30,000. And so we want to try and beat that next year. And then on Thursday, we have our bonus days. And so if you guys are interested, Justin will be there. Justin, actually, so we have our Wealthy Contractor Success Society, which is essentially we have mastermind groups that we run based on the groups that I used to run a few years back. And so I need more great mastermind facilitators. And Justin is one of the first people I went to when I needed new facilitators, and he's agreed to join us next year as a mastermind group facilitator. So I'm really excited about that. And but anyway, Accelerate Live. Do you have anything to say? I know you've been to a few Accelerates. I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah. Yes.
What would you say to people that are thinking about, should I go to this thing? Should I not go to this thing?
Yes. And Brian, I would assume that most of your listeners, maybe they've been to conferences or they've been to Accelerate, but maybe some of them haven't. And when I look back, probably my first 7 or 8 years, I didn't go. I was so knee deep in the minutia, like I couldn't even get above water to even think about going to a conference. But that once I did, it really changed my life when I realized, wow, like I learned all these things about marketing and processes. And so I would say it's invaluable to go to a conference. And I've been to yours several times, Brian, at Accelerate. And I think that your content, it's a great mixture of, it's very home improvement focused, of course, a lot about profitability, tons about sales and marketing. And I love how you add, the mindset in there. And that's something that separates you a little bit with your conference, because we all know it all starts there with the mindset. So I would strongly recommend the Accelerate conference. And I think you have great speakers and great content, and you will 10x the investment. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
And look, I'll say to everybody, it's interesting. Justin said the first 7 or 8 years, he was just so knee deep involved in his business. And a lot of people do that. They fall into that trap, and you find yourself alone. And the only person that you can go to for answers is you, but you don't have the answers. So what do? You just work harder, and you think, oh, if I just work harder, if I just work a couple more hours a day, I'll figure this all out. And I mean, look, whether you go to Accelerate, although I have obviously a biased opinion, but whether you go to Accelerate or one of the other conferences in the industry, getting away from your office is invaluable. Getting yourself in an environment where you can actually think and you're around other people that are in the same business as you. I mean, it's what one little thing can you hear from the stage or from the hallways or at lunch or at breakfast from somebody else that unlocks something or solves a problem for you. It's really amazing to me how more people aren't going to these events and using the resources that are there, that are available. And if you can't leave your business for 2 days or 3 days to go learn more about, you're doing it wrong. And that's the argument for you need to get out. You need to go and find something.
Agreed 100%. Like if I could go back, like I would have went to Accelerate like the week that I started my business, and it would have saved me literally years of making mistakes, and just more than that, just the time that you lose.
Yeah.
The time away from your family, and just the headaches that you can avoid.
Yeah, and make no mistake, I mean, this is not about me at all. It's the real power of this is all of the people collected together. I mean, imagine you sitting down and looking over and saying, "Oh, hey, hi, my name's Brian. What's your name? Oh, my name's Justin Bartley. Well, great. Well, what do you do, Justin? Or where are you from? Chicago?" And then you come to find out, oh shit, I'm sitting next to this guy who's been there and done that. How powerful is that? And I hope that we'll see a lot more people there. This year we had, I think we had like 500 people, or no, not quite. I think we're 400 and something. This next year, 2025 in February, we're expecting it to be over 500 people. Okay. So that's my little shameless plug for.
Yes. And of course the networking. Yeah. I mean, you have all the like epic people at Accelerate that you learn. Yeah. I mean, you said it. If you can learn from people who've been doing this and who have had massive success, and they're always very generous with sharing the things they've learned.
Yeah. I don't bring, there's other events that bring the big rah-rah people, and they bring, the motivational speakers and all of that. We don't do that. I just want to bring people that have been there and done that. And the motivation comes from, hey, look at this guy how's he any different, or she any different than you? How are they any better than you? Well, I think the only real difference is they just think different. And so if you could find out how they think and how they're looking at the business, maybe that'll help unlock something for you. So I'm looking at the clock here. We've actually gone a little bit over, but I did want to ask you about, because you're a very introspective guy. You're very into data and analysis and all of that. So What are some of the things that you learned in 2024?
Well, again, I'd say it's a lot of the same lessons that you learned. It's the importance, again, of knowing your numbers around marketing, and the importance of just the value of the appointment and how much more time we spend on sales training, with fewer appointments, and just how much we were able to bump up our closing ratio this year with more focus on that.
Yeah.
So I think that you learn the lessons over and over again, but like the training is, I think, the biggest focus for us right now. Like, how can we grew 15% with, very few, like just a few percent more appointments this year.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of multipliers and accelerators in your business. So that's one thing that I think I relearned is how to squeeze more out of your marketing. How can I go back to my database one more time? Because instead of 4, 5, or 6,
yeah,
and it tends to keep working. And just the training and providing resources to your team, whether it's sales training, customer service training, just training top to bottom has been a really big focus. So I think I learned a lot about how to provide training that reaches people in every area of the business. So that's been a big focus of ours. And for us at the level we're at, recruiting that's the key unlock for us. Mm-hmm. Because we've talked about it the whole time. I mean, sure, of course you need leads. People really are the key in this business. This is a very face-to-face, old school industry. And people will unlock everything. So that would be, I think, my biggest learning continues to be in reminding yourself that's the answer to almost all of your problems are, getting the best people around you, building the best team. And also as you grow, sometimes the people that got you to this point maybe aren't always the right ones to get you to the next. And that's a lesson that when you're growing, that you always have to keep learning.
Yeah. And it's a tough lesson.
It is really tough when you have people, well, I've been working with John for 10 years and he's a great person and a great fit, but he no longer, or she, has the skill to get us from 10 to 20 million. And being able to make those hard decisions, I think that's probably a lesson that you continue learning, as you grow, and how to find people that are the right fit for your business, for where you're going. Because if you want to grow, you have to look at maybe that's 10 million, maybe it's 20, $30 million from now. But to get there, you need the people that have the skills who can get you there.
Yeah.
So I think that, people that's really the key to,
the
freedom of time and also just the growth in the business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And as an owner, the less you have to do, the more you get to pull levers in the business, because you have a lot of levers you can pull. So if appointments are down, it's funny, I was talking with a buddy of mine that runs a big $100+ million company. They're doing some of the same stuff you are. It's like, okay, if appointments are down a little bit, okay, we still have to grow the business. We still have to grow our profitability. We still have to grow our top line. So where are we going to look at? What's a lever we can pull? Well, we can get better with our sales training. We can add a couple points to our close rate. And if you are stuck in the weeds of your business and you're running from one fire to another and one disaster to another, you can't do the things that you would be doing if you could be calm, quiet, and have the ability to just sit and think. And I think that that's really hard for people to imagine themselves or be like, well, wait a minute, if I get rid of all of this, what am I going to do?
Yep. And we hit on it earlier. That's where you really have to know thyself.
Mm-hmm.
What am I really, what can I be the best in the world at? What do I really enjoy? And that's where you have to bring the value, and you have to find it, put a team around you that can do those other things. When I look at my team around me, they blow me away with what like they can do things that, like my accountant and who became our general manager, like what he can do with spreadsheets. Like, honestly, I have no clue, and that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
our IT director, who's our data scientist, like what he can do, and that's amazing. And they're all like way better than I am at any of this. But we all have to focus on those things where we can be the best, and it's a journey to find those really great people who can fill those roles around you. So that would be, I think, the biggest key is finding awesome people. And maybe it's a 1099 at first, or it's a part-time, and that's okay. But people are out there. There's great people. It's very hard, but they're out there, and that's really the key to the freedom is finding a great team and the key to growth.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm going to leave it at that because that's very well said, my friend. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for being back again. I'm sure you will. This was number 4. I'm sure there'll be a number 5 and a number 6. We'll see. So, okay. So everybody, if you want to be around cool people like Justin, go to accelerateevent.com, accelerateevent.com, and get yourself a ticket for Accelerate Live. It is 100% risk-free. You can read the guarantee on the website, but I hope that we will see you all there. So until next time, this is Brian Kaskavalcian, and this is the Wealthy Contractor Podcast.